am Emmanuel Diaz. I'm in 7th grade, second bimester, and the subject is English. So today we'll be talking about passive voice and active voice. So, what is passive voice? The passive voice is a way of structuring a sentence so that the focus is on the action being done to the subject, not vice versa. Vice versa would be active voice, which we'll see later. In contrast, the active voice focuses on the doer, the person or thing doing the action. It focuses on the doer, not the object. So here we'll see the structure. In present simple, the passive voice would be the report is written by her. So you're talking first, the report, and then the subject. So it's not like active voice, which is the common way of speaking in English. She writes the report. She, the subject, writes the report, the object. This time is the opposite. The report is written by her. So a few things change to make this happen. We'll see another example. For example, past simple, they cleaned the room in active voice, and in passive voice would be the room was cleaned by them. So the room, the object, was cleaned by them, the subject. The project has been finished. The package will be delivered. In these two cases, we don't know the subject, and the passive voice is useful for this. So, in the active voice, we would say he has finished the project or they will deliver the package. But because we don't know who delivered the package or who finished the project, we could say the project has been finished and total skip the subject. The same thing with the package. The package will be delivered by we don't know, so we skip. That's the advantage of the passive voice. When do we use it? So when the doer is unknown, I just explained it. When the doer is obvious or not important, for example, the criminal was arrested. So who arrested it? Obviously the police. So we don't need to specify that. To emphasize the object of the action, not the doer, like the active voice we'll see later. And in scientific or technical writing to sound objective. So these are some uses that we can give to the passive voice. And this is important. Here are some common mistakes with the passive voice. Not all verbs can be used in the passive voice, only transitive verbs. I mean verbs that can take an object can form a passive sentence. For example, she baked a cake. A cake was baked because the cake is an object. Baked is an like it's can be an object, can take an object. It is possible. But for example, he sleeps early, not passive form because sleep has no object. Passive voice is sometimes criticized for making writing overly wordy. Or, for example, you write too many words with the passive voice. It is shorter to write it with the active voice, especially if overused. So, if you use too many passive voice sentences, you're gonna be writing a lot more than in active voice. Good writers know when to use the active voice for clarity, though. So, good writers know when to use active voice and passive voice depending on the context. And we'll begin with the active voice. The active voice is the opposite of passive voice. I just explained it. It's also the most common and natural way of speaking and writing in English. In the active voice, the subject of the sentence is the doer of the action. That means the subject does something to the object, not vice versa. In the passive voice, the object was first and then the subject. In the active voice, the subject is first and then the object. We'll see the structure. Present simple. She writes the report. We saw this structure in the past. So it's common. So she writes the report. The report is written by her. You can see there is more text on the passive voice than the active voice. The active voice sounds more natural. So they will deliver the package. In this case, it would be better to use the passive voice, but both are right, so there is no problem. And when do we use the active voice? Well, to make sentences clearer and more direct. The passive voice is like a way around of saying a sentence. The active voice is more direct and clearer. Two, to keep writing simple and engaging. So we 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 said that before. Um, the passive voice is very long. It's longer than the active voice, so it's better to use the active voice for shorter sentences. When the doer of the action is important or known. So in the passive voice, for example, we saw this. The report is written by her. Yes, we know the subject. But the project has been finished. Who is the subject? So he has finished the project. She writes the report. When we know the subject, we can use the active voice. Good. In storytelling, dialogue, and everyday speech, or to express responsibility or ownership. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.